What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Musician Rewind. Today, I got a very special guest, y'all. This is my oldest friend. We've known each other since I was 5. And when I was on 156th Street, who people don't know, I originally started on 156th Street. Ron Harrison, bassist. What's good, Ron?
What's going on, Kev?
Hey, man, thanks for coming on. So like I start with everybody else that's on the show, man, I know you as the bass player. Was bass your original instrument or was it something else?
Nah, my original instrument was the drums.
Mm-hmm.
I was surrounded by Chris on one side, and right across the street was a cat. I don't even know whether you remember him, Jerry Tillman.
No.
Oh man, the Tillman boys was something else. I mean, they were the Palmer brothers before the Palmer brothers. Okay?
Really? I don't know nothing of them.
It was Andy, the father, Andrew, the oldest son, and Jerry, the youngest son. And Jerry was an amazing drummer.
Wow.
And Andrew was a fantastic guitar player. I mean, like, I think I heard Wes Montgomery before I even knew who Wes Montgomery was coming out of his house. And his father accompanying him on piano. His father was a fantastic piano player.
Wow.
Man, that family was something else.
That's interesting because I've never heard anybody else talk about them.
Nah, man. That goes back to... I've known you ever since I was like 6 years old, and they were like my parents' oldest friends.
Okay.
And I mean, my father used to hang out with his father, and I mean, I couldn't get an invite to go downstairs to actually hear them play or see them play.
Right.
But I'd always stand outside and listen. And there was some sounds coming out of that basement you wouldn't believe, man.
Wow.
Yep. It was unbelievable. Those guys were something else.
So drums, was that something you wanted to play, or was that the at that time the usual everybody got some type of instrument for Christmas?
Yeah, well, you know about the instrument for Christmas. You know all about that. I mean, like I actually wanted to play guitar, and I started off learning with Andrew across the street, and we just weren't connecting on a level that I could understand.
Right.
I mean, he was more advanced than I could ever be, and I couldn't catch on to what he was doing. He was trying to teach music instead of trying to teach a kid how to play.
Got you.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing he said was like, if you can focus in on something that you can do, like a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, we'll go from there. And I kept trying, and it just never happened for me. So I was fiddling around with my guitar until somebody actually sat on it and broke it. Because I had an old acoustic guitar. Somebody sat on it and broke it. The body of the guitar just smashed. So I got up enough nerve to ask my parents if they would buy me a drum set. And my mom went to I think she went to, what was it, Manny's on Jamaica Avenue?
I could assume it was the Stewart.
Well, you know it well.
That's right there.
It was the Stewart, and I got that, and I did my best. I was listening to Chris, and by then I was still listening to Jerry across the street, and so on and so forth. I tried and tried. I actually became a decent drummer at that time, but then I went to junior high school. I met a couple of friends, Kevin Harper, and I think about a year later, Victor Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both playing guitar. And I was like, well, that's something that I started out on. I think I can get back into that. But no, I don't actually want to play guitar.
Right.
And we were hanging out one day. Vic came by my house it was summertime. Vic came by my house one day, and he was asking me if I wanted to go up to the park and play basketball. You know, August Martin, all the ball players, all the handball players hung out at August Martin all the time.
Yeah, which a lot of them were musicians, either playing or singing.
Exactly. So like, I got up and got dressed and so on and so forth and came out and said, but first, hold on, I want to go get another guy to fill out fill out for playing. He said, let's go over here and see Kev. I said, Kev who? He said, Kevin Harrington. I said, Kevin Harrington's still around here? Because you were gone from 156th Street at that time.
Yeah, I left at 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I went to school in Georgia for a year. When I came back, we moved to 154th Street.
Right. So I came over and we knocked on the door, so on and so forth. I think Billy let us in.
Mm-hmm.
And from the basement was this incredible sound, this incredible drummer, young kid. And I came down the stairs, and you were sitting up there on the drums, and just going crazy. You don't remember that?
I usually remember anything, and I do not remember that. That is too funny.
That stands out in my mind like you wouldn't believe. And Vic and I came down the stairs, and I looked at you, and you looked at me. You said, "Ron." I'm like, "Kev, is that?" I couldn't believe because I hadn't seen you in years.
Right, and I hadn't got to 72 yet.
Right. Because you're
I was a year behind Vic.
Yeah, because that means you're about you're 2 years younger than I am.
Right. So you and Kev were seniors when I got to 72.
Exactly. And you were sitting up there and you were playing to a record at that time. I think it was Patti LaBelle and you were playing Lady Marmalade.
Yeah. Okay. You know, now I do remember that era when I was learning that. Okay. So I know when you're talking about, you know what? Yeah. And I had the back room. Mm-hmm. I was playing on that 3-piece set. Yeah, okay. I remember that. I do remember that now. Y'all coming in the room.
And I was listening to you play, and I'm like, this guy is so much better than where I am right now. We gotta form a little band.
And at that point, how it starts.
Yeah. And we got to form a little band. And I said, look, but Kev and Vic play guitar. Kevin is obviously the most impressive drummer I have ever heard in my young life.
Wow. Appreciate that.
And I said, let me see what I can do. And, my oldest brother, Beaver, had a bass.
Willie B, rest in peace, brother.
Mm-hmm. He was a legend at that time. And I said, well, look, he doesn't really play it anymore, so maybe I can do something with this. And I started trying to finger something on the bass. I think I was working out on one string at that time, and I think I started trying to play Shaft, because that was way back in the 70s.
Right.
And I learned it on one string. And from there, it was just like, okay, I got to do better than this. And by that, I was
going to say, in that in itself, like the fact that you was like, okay, so there's going to be a drummer and guitar player. Guess I'm going to learn how to play bass. I mean, that in itself is
Basically.
It's crazy.
Basically.
All right. And I'm gonna learn to play bass because we're gonna start rehearsing soon. See that itself, it's like
The mind
that
works
itself
like,
shows the talent. Exactly, that you can go, okay, I'm gonna learn to play bass and we're gonna
the
be
mind
rehearsing
works
real
like
soon.
that. It's like, look, I got to fit in somewhere with because these are my friends, and I wanna play in a band with them. So like I'm trying to learn what I can do or do what I can do. And by that time, Glenn had learned how to play the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I gotta back up a little bit. I had two older brothers, Beaver and Glenn. And by that time, Glenn had learned how to play the guitar a little bit. He was working out with he was learning from Nicky Brady. You remember him?
Yep. He brought that up in his. Yep. I talked to him. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Him, Wayne Jeffries, Michael Powell, and Chris Van Putten. And they were rehearsing. They were rehearsing down the block in Mike's backyard. And Nicky was like teaching Glenn, and I'm watching Mike and Nicky and all of that, and I'm trying to. I could only mimic and try to do what I see.
Right.
At that time. And Mike caught my attention. And Mike was the smoothest guy I had ever seen.
Yeah, I heard say that.
It's like, you couldn't tell what his fingers were doing.
His fingers was right.
But he was all over the neck, and he was playing, and it was sounding, it's really great to me.
Yeah, like his technique was crazy, looked like a spider walking
his
up down the
technique
fretboard.
was unbelievable. Yeah, exactly. And I was looking, and I'm like, I can do that if I just keep on practicing. So I just kept listening and looking and trying to learn. And eventually I got some kind of ability to do what I was trying to do.
And that's what's to me to show the gift you had and the talent is for you to get as good as you got that fast. To be the bass player and for us to actually start rehearsing where we learned songs, and you would think that was always your instrument.
No, but that wasn't always my instrument. I mean, like I grew up next to a drummer who started off on keyboards. I mean, Mrs. Van Putten, I think, had everybody, all her children, learn the piano.
Yeah, that's what my mom's wanted that.
Yeah. Most parents want that.
Right.
And she had a piano in their living room, and they would all practice on the piano and so on and so forth. But somehow, some way, Chris broke off, and he got a drum set. And that's all I heard. We lived next door, so he was practicing in the basement. I spent most of my time in the basement, and he was just beating those drums, and he was killing it back then.
Right. I can remember sometime us being at your house and we hear him practicing.
Yep. I mean, like I don't know whether he took lessons from Richard Ruiz, or he did that all on his own. But I think Rich had quite a bit of an influence.
Yeah, I think Rich influenced the whole neighborhood, but he definitely influenced me.
As we were growing up, Rich was the legend around there.
Yeah. And you know what? Even with the sense of when people hear this and go, y'all took lessons, they need to understand we're not talking about the same lessons where you go to a teacher and you sit and you had basically we would go to somebody and just watch them practice.
Exactly.
That was our lessons. Like nobody sit down and said, okay, go do this with your left. It was like you sit there and you watch them practice.
Exactly. And if you had the right ear,
right,
and the ear for music, you picked up on quite a bit.
Right.
So I picked up quite a bit from Michael Powell by watching and listening to them practice and so on and so forth. And like I said, Mike was just so smooth. It's like, I got to be able to do that.
Right. And so you did develop the same smoothness when you played. I always said that you would have been the studio cat. because
Right.
you knew just what to play, when to put it, where to place it.
Well, you
A
know,
lot of times cats was, everybody was trying to be Graham.
right.
And
Right.
I always said that you played tasty, didn't overplay, and kept that bottom with me.
Right. But you know, my guys, you, Kev, and Vic,
Mm-hmm.
you guys kept me in that pocket. It's like, Ron, just do this. And watching and playing with you were the easiest cat to follow.
Well, we played well together.
We did play well together. And we kept on going and practicing and playing and so on and so forth. But like I said, I took what I learned and what I heard from Michael Powell, and I had known at the time that he had learned from Bobby Northleaf. You remember him?
Now, when I interviewed him and Glenn, I wasn't familiar with Bobby, just his brother.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was another one, the older one.
Yeah, I think Bob's over in somewhere in Africa right now. I think he's playing with some band right now. But he had learned from Bobby, and if Mike was smooth, Bobby was definitely smoother.
Right.
I learned from him or watched him. What else? Glenn Miller from Wisdom. I had two older brothers, so brothers connect and so on and so forth. They know each other, and I mean, it was fat. It was a learning experience for me.
Right. I remember us going to block parties. Remember we went and saw Marcus and them play?
Yep.
At 159th Street, they was playing the block party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg and all of them, and Glenn and Wayne Jeffries and so on and so forth. But as we grew up, they branched out and formed other bands and went other directions. I mean, before Marcus played with Unique Creation, what was that? Who was playing bass for them? Rory Guy. You remember Rory? Right.
Yep.
And then, I mean, we used to go around and you used to hear all the guys gigging and rehearsing in their basements and their garages and so on and so forth. And I learned a lot just by showing up and taking in what I could take in visually and listening to what I was hearing. And that's how, if I was at any point, a smooth cat, growing cat, and learning and so on and so forth. I got it from that foundation of Glenn Miller, Bobby Northleaf, Michael Powell, Rory Guy, and then Marcus came along, and he just tore everything apart.
And hey, let's not forget. Eddie Cordew.
Yeah, no. I was not gonna. I'm not gonna forget Eddie, because Eddie was my. Realistically, Marcus was. He was up here, but in my opinion, and it's just my opinion now, Eddie was just a step better.
Eddie came in the neighborhood and just ripped it. Everybody was coming to Richard's house to hear this kid.
I'm telling you, man, it was unbelievable. Eddie was a beast.
Yeah.
At that point, he was doing things that I didn't think I would ever be able to do, and I always wanted to come over to Vic's house, Richard's house, and just take in all I could take in, because that guy was just unbelievable at the time.
And that was the beauty of us coming in the neighborhood, because we could come down there and just watch.
Exactly. That was the same thing for Glenn and Visions way back then, because they'd allow us. Well, they didn't really allow us. Sometimes they'd leave the basement door open.
Right. Well, I told them that. I was laughing. I said, y'all were really the only ones that would let us in.
They were the only ones that wouldn't chase us out.
And then when y'all couldn't, we would stand by the window.
Exactly.
And they would laugh. And I said, because sometimes we didn't come in, we just stand outside.
Exactly. Just stand outside and listen. I mean, when we were able to get in, they were basically, well, them and Chief and Mrs. Ruiz wouldn't chase us out when we came in to just listen to the guys rehearse. But I got quite a bit from Mike, and I took a step forward when I saw Eddie. Eddie was that guy.
So, so that's interesting. So, you met Vic and Kev in junior high school. You wasn't taking music in school?
No, I never took music in school. I mean, I always got relegated to the chorus because I wouldn't step out there. And yeah,
I was going to say, how did you avoid that? So you end up in chorus.
I ended up in chorus. Yeah, it's like that. I mean, like if you didn't try to choose orchestra or band, if you didn't end up, if you didn't choose one or the other, you ended up in chorus.
That's interesting because I didn't choose orchestra, and they sure put me in there.
I mean, like I didn't try to play any instruments in elementary school or junior high school or anything like that. I was just in the chorus and trying to get to hear everybody else that was practicing and playing music and so on. And so
they would consider us late bloomers because I didn't do nothing in elementary school. It started, right then. So around the time you heard me, I really was just getting started because I practiced that LaBelle record. Like that was what I was playing. That was the record.
And you played it well.
Man, Rich changed my life when he gave me my first Billy Cobham album.
Yeah, man.
That changed everything for me.
That's the first time I had ever heard Billy Cobham, and he was like a big influence in what Rich was doing at that time.
Yeah,
and so on and so forth.
So so we in the band, we had our stellar performance when we opened for Glenn and Rich and them at 45 for that fundraiser that Chief put on for the PTA. That was our shining moment.
that was my shining moment. That was my shining moment at that time. It's like I think we practiced for like 6 months for that one talent show. And when we got, I think we got the approval of Mrs. Ruiz.
Yes,
she came downstairs while we were rehearsing one time, and she said, "You guys really sound good."
And that was it. That was it for us. That was it. I was like, well, we've heard it from the Queen.
We made it. We made it.
Because I tell people, I said, Ms. Ruiz has heard more bands probably than the basic person not to have to leave her house. I said, because Rich was playing in 1,000 bands. And for her to come tell us that we sounded good, that just meant everything. Exactly. That meant everything. I'll never forget that. I was like, well, there it is, y'all. We have arrived.
I mean, it was a real blessing that they were able to put up with the noise that we were making in our early stages, and the fact that they were able to front those electric bills that we were running up for them by always. I mean, not only us, but Rich and everybody else that that was coming by there. Yep. And all the amps came on, and the music that was coming out of the basement, but they didn't make a sound. They didn't do anything.
And that's why I always, salute the parents of any of us that were musicians, especially if you're rehearsing at their house. Respect to the elders, man, for that. Because if it had not been for them, a lot of us really wouldn't have had anywhere to practice.
Exactly. It didn't have anywhere to practice. As a matter of fact, like it took me a long time to talk my father into buying me a bass.
Mm-hmm.
But like we went out to Sam Ash in Hempstead, and he's like, "Okay, Ron, you know I don't really want to be here, but what do you like?" And I looked at this red Rickenbacker.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's like $450. I don't think Dad's going to pay for that. I'm formulating as I'm standing there with my father, and he's got that. Well, you know what my father was.
Yeah.
When he was a little bit miffed at you or pissed at you, you could see it on his face immediately. And when the stuttering stopped, it got serious. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, Dad, I like this. He said, and he just like shook his head. And I'm not paying for that right now.
At that time was a lot of money for a baby.
$450 at that time was too much money for my father. He's like, that's not going to happen. So I'm looking, and I took a couple off the wall, a couple off the stands, and I'm trying to find one that works for me. And by that time, I think you had introduced me to Steve Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve had this had a Carlo Rebelli at that time.
Yeah,
Sunburst Carlo Rebelli.
Great basses,
man. And I picked up one of those and I said, "It's got good weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's got an excellent feel." I said, "Dad, what about this one?" Which was about $300 cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, Ron, I can work with that." And he bought that for me, and we came on home. I think he bought that. I think he bought me an acoustic speaker bottom at that.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, when did you get the acoustic? Right.
Yeah. And he bought that, and we brought it on home, and I'm working on that, and this is what I need to keep playing with my guys. And I worked on. I kept practicing and practicing. And I thought I got a little bit better, but I didn't really get the. I didn't really know until I stepped out, or I brought it over to practice with y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Yeah, well, they like it. I like it. I must be doing a little something here."
That bass sounded great, man. It's always great when somebody gets some new equipment.
I still got it.
It's like, oh man,
still got it.
Acoustic, that was the thing back then. Talk about loudness.
That's what it was. I mean, it was a powerful amp, and for a beginning player like I was at that time, it's exactly what I needed.
Right.
I mean, but I took it, and I took everything that I had observed and tried to learn, and so on and so forth, and I did what I could do with it. And I think at that time, you and Vic, by that time, I don't think Harper was with us anymore. You remember that first show we did
at over in St. Albans. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know what? Glenn didn't realize that was our first gig.
That was our first gig.
And I told him, I said, thank y'all. I thanked him. I said, because, y'all put us on our first gig.
Exactly.
On with y'all. I don't even know if the people realize that, what is this band? Because there was already other bands.
Exactly. But the thing is, they put us onto that, and we showed up. Well, at first we weren't going to show up.
Yeah.
I mean, the story is that we were just late, but we weren't just late. Kev and I, we got cold feet.
Oh God, you was gonna leave me and Vic out there. Huh?
At the same time. And we got the great idea to run to Jamaica Avenue and buy a couple of shirts or whatever, so on and so forth. But the thing is, or the true reason behind that is, like, we were scared to death. We were scared to death, and we were walking around Jamaica Avenue, and I'm picking a shirt, and he's picking this and that and the other, so on and so forth. And I said, "Look, Kev, we do have a show to do, and we're about 40 minutes from like when we're supposed to show up for the event. He's like, "Well, Ron, what do you want to do?" And I told him at that point, I was like, "Look, we did all this rehearsing, we did all this learning, and so on and so forth. We need to show what we need, what we can do."
Right.
I said, like, I don't want to disappoint Kev and Vic. So we got the show. And we showed up, finally. Finally, everybody else was angry at us. We got there really late and got out there and took the floor because they wouldn't put us on the stage.
Right, they didn't put us on the stage. We was on the floor. Yep.
We were just some young cats trying to
in front of the stage. Mm-hmm.
And we had the great idea of sending you out there to start us off. And when you kicked that solo, man, when you kicked off on that solo, the entire auditorium filled up. And I said, "Kev, you ready?" Because it was me, you, Vic, and Harp at that time. And we started playing. I think we started off on Express by BT Express.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, but you had done this incredible intro.
I remember I was scared to death going up there by myself. And I just remember I focused in on Beaver. Because he had a big smile on his face. So I was like, I'm just gonna look at him. I'm like, no.
Because as far as I could tell, or what he told me after that is like his little brothers got up there and killed it. And he was so proud he didn't know what to do with himself.
Man, he was smiling ear to ear, so I just kept looking at him. I was like, all right. He was smiling. I'll just look at him.
And as proud as he was that his little brothers got up there and did that, Glenn was just that much proud. It's like, I showed them how to do this.
Right.
And they did. I mean, him, Mike, and Chris, they basically, they were the model that we followed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Rich and them was on another level. So we
and influences we had that we could get to right down the block, so on and so forth, was Glenn and Mike and Chris and so on and so forth. I mean, you know, they as older brothers go, they were like really proud of what we were doing at that time.
Right.
But that little show of ours, or that little talent show that we were in, it didn't go too well for me in particular.
Yeah, the infamous cracking of the knuckles.
I didn't want to disappoint you guys. That's why me and Kev showed up. But we started off our set, and in the middle of the set, I got the worst cramp in my finger, in my hand. And I'm trying to urge y'all to continue to play.
I remember that.
I'm like, guys, keep on. And everybody stopped. And I cracked my knuckles.
So you heard through the whole place.
And the whole place like, what the heck? What's going on with that?
He said, oh man.
That was like it was like the funniest situation. But that was at the beginning. That's right. Where we started from.
For us to be that age.
Yeah. And nerves.
And, I was telling Glenn and them that we end up doing a gig for Dwayne because they ain't want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And that was just the three of us, me, you, and Vic.
No, it was four of us.
I thought it was just three of us on that one.
Nah, it was four of us because we had. Didn't Tony show up? Wasn't Tony playing?
Do that gig? I don't know if Tony did that gig. I'm just trying to think, like, what what did he play? Because he couldn't have, I don't remember.
He wasn't playing
being
guitar
there.
at that time.
Right, because he had started, because by the time he played with us, he was playing keys.
He was playing keys, exactly. Right. And we did that, and we actually got paid for it too.
Oh yeah.
But well, you got more attention than anybody else, because when you tried to swipe some of that leftover food for everybody,
he was like, oh my gosh,
that server went crazy.
I was trying to take two grapes.
Kids.
I was trying to take 2 grapes. God.
Exactly. It's like, we're just kids. What are you doing?
I guess it was cutting into their take home. Hey, he plan on taking us home. That was so crazy. So by that time, we in high school. Because when we did the gig at 45, Tony was still playing guitar. He was playing with Glenn and them.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that
I don't know how did he end up playing with us though, because like you say, he wasn't playing guitar. He was playing keys by then. Yeah,
Glenn had graduated, and and Tony was still there with us basically.
Right.
And for some reason, we hooked up and started playing me, Tony, and you and Vic.
Right.
I don't even know how that came about.
Right. But as usual, we still got the band, because then by that time, now we done skipped ahead because we done skipped over Alan and Vince.
Yeah.
And we had a horn section in the band.
Yeah.
Because Kev was playing sax then, and then
Kev
he left.
was playing sax then.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why Vince came in.
And I think Kev was,
because you remember he had Earl, like the sax player Earl came. Actually, Vince took his place.
Earl came in to replace Kevin, yeah.
Right, he replaced Kev, but then he went to the service. I believe he was a year ahead of Al.
Exactly.
And Vince came in. And
that reminds me about that show that we did at 45.
Right.
Yeah, because it's a good thing that Earl was a versatile.
Oh yeah,
musician.
Earl could sing. We did,
and that saved our butts. That night.
Did it? We did Dream Merchant. Oh, that was it. We killed them.
The whole crowd, the whole audience went crazy when he started singing.
Yep. And so basically, we was playing what people liked, but I gotta say, Rich and them was murdering that. However, the audience didn't know anything about fusion music. Exactly.
And that's where I got my that's where I got my introduction to fusion.
I remember at that time Michael Williams was playing drums.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what band he played with, but I just remember that he played drums.
I don't think Mike ever actually got with a band.
Band, okay.
Yeah, he got on the more technical end of it. He'd ask you to do something. I got that. I'm working on this tune, and I'd like you to put something to it if you can.
Right.
But
so is that how you end up on the Father MC track?
That's exactly how I ended up on the MC track. He said, "Hey Ron, I'm working on this little tune here, and what do you think you can put to this?" And I'm like, "Mike, I just came by as a favor to you. I'm not recording you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about any of that." And I'm like, I'm trying to work on what I'm hearing.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure it and just go along with the tune that I was hearing. Now, realistically, the melody of that tune, that tune was kind of hot.
Mm-hmm.
That tune was kind of hot. I don't know whether what I did was a good fit to it, because I was more or less just trying to just follow what he was doing on the track.
Right.
And I'm just trying to follow along with that. And the next thing I know, he said, "Okay, I got it." "You got what, man?" He said, I got it. I laid down the track to that Father MC song.
Wow.
And I'm like, I wasn't made aware of it until about 5 or 6 years ago.
Wow. That's crazy.
Glenn was coming down here for a visit, and he said, I'm going to bring you something. I said, you're going to bring me what? And he showed up with he came by here with a CD. And I said, so what's on the CD? He said, listen to this. He didn't even tell me. He wouldn't tell me.
Right.
And he put it on, and we're listening to it. And I'm like, that's kind of hot. I mean, I wasn't a big hip hop head.
Right.
I mean, I was trying to do my best to follow fusion and get into that and all that.
Yeah, but you know, the early hip hop was more R&B-ish musical anyway.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And he turned that that tune on, and I said, "Well, who is that?" He said, "It's Father MC." I said, "Nah, I don't remember this track. I don't remember." He said, "You don't remember this track?"
Oh, wow.
I said, "No, I don't remember this." He said, listen to the bass. And I'm listening. I said, hey, that's kind of, that's all right. Yeah. He said, that's you. I said, that's me what? He said, that's you playing on that track.
Wow.
Like, what? I said, is that what Mike did that time?
Wow.
Said, I swear, I'm like, I was like blown away. I said, he recorded me, didn't tell me that he was recording me.
And then no credit on it, huh?
No credit at all.
Oh, man.
I'm like, man. It was unbelievable, man.
Right. So when we in Lewis, at Francis Lewis, you actually, it's funny because I met Steve and you knew Fernando before I did, because I believe y'all had a class together.
Yeah, I think I did.
That. And at that time, Fern was learning bass. And he would always say, he said, man, Ron was the best teacher ever. And
I got to say this. I mean, like, I mean, like, yeah, I think I did know Fern before you did. But like, you guys, you, Steve, Warren, I think Vic, y'all took it to the professional level. And I was happy in just teaching what I had learned.
Right.
I mean, like, I tried to pass on what I had gotten from Bobby Northley, Michael Powell, Glenn Miller, Eddie Cadu, all of those guys. I tried to pass it along as far as I could go with it, because at that point, like, you know, after high school and I did a year and a half in you know, in Queensboro and so on and so forth. But I thought maybe it would be better if I just sat back and kind of like teached. So
right.
Whatever I did for Fern, you know, that was my niche.
It's interesting because Fern played. He had because I played with you, and like again, I gotta say, like you're the first bass player I ever played with.
Right.
I could hear you in him. I think that's what he always liked. Like he always said that you was tasty and solid.
Right.
That was his thing. So you would be proud of him. Fern did a recording back then with Jocelyn, and it was a drummer. His name was Pumpkin. His nickname was Pumpkin. It's called Pumpkin King of the Beat. He was like doing hip hop. But they were in the studio, and of course Fern's the green one, you know, because you got people that already did records. But when I tell you, man, when he played that for me, I told him, I said, I would never know that you probably hadn't been playing bass that long. He was so solid and played what needed to be played and tasty. And again, he gave all that credit to you. Because I was like, yep, that's just how Ron would have approached it.
Man.
I said, that's just how he would have approached it. So when he did something, it stood out. And like, I was like, yo, Fern, man, you sound great because you played the tune as it needed to be played, not trying to show that, you know, that you're a great bass player, but you played the tune. It was so solid.
Mm-hmm.
And the only recording we had of it, man, got burnt up in the fire they had.
What?
And then David, I know he got to the point where he just bugged you. But rest in peace to David Coddington, but he got good so quick. From picking up the bass, and next thing I know, he's in a band.
Right. Well, that was all. That was due to David's persistence.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to learn.
And again, rest well, brother. I mean, like we all miss him. I mean, we grew up with him. We grew up together, so on and so forth. We miss him. Rest well. But he was just that nudgy kid brother. It's like, Ron, show me this.
Right.
Ron, show me that. I'm like, Dave, I got to go to rehearsal right now.
Right.
Kevin, Vic are waiting. Hold on just a second. Just do this. I'll get it, and I'll practice it, and so on and so forth. Dave was just
he really wanted to do it, and I can respect that. I said, because that was us years earlier. I would see him coming out the door with the bass. I used to go, I hope he's not coming over here. So, Dave would come over here, over to my house with me to play with him. So, at times we get together and I could just tell, I said, man, Ronnie's really teaching you well, man. Like his solidness, his pocket. Mm-hmm. And other times I see him leaving, I say, must be going to your house.
Yeah. And that's exactly where he was coming to. He was coming over and we'd get in the basement and just work on this and work on that and so on and so forth. But Dave had a drive behind him.
Yeah.
If he hadn't gotten taken from us so early, he would have been out there.
Yep. I remember he ended up with a Fender Jazz.
Yep.
And a Trainer amp. And I remember I was like, wow, the only other person I remember with that amp was Mike, right?
Was Mike, exactly.
Trainer amp.
He loved that Trainer amp. He was like, okay, I'm going to stay right here in front of it. You guys, I know you young guys want to touch and so on and so forth. Because I mean, I love that bass that Powell had, that red copy of a Gibson.
Right. Because didn't you buy that? EVO. Didn't you get that?
I bought it for him.
Yeah, you bought it from him. Yeah.
Because as a matter of fact, I gave that bass to Fern.
Okay.
I mean, that's where he continued to play and learn on and so on and so forth. Because I gave it to him and he said, I'm going to learn how to play it. And damn if he didn't.
Yeah, he did, man.
He did. I gotta give props to all the guys that influenced me. I mean, like the Rory guys and the Eddie Cadu's and the Marcus Millers and so on and so forth. Now, all these guys, we're all neighborhood guys in the same neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, and they all influenced. Well, I can't say they influenced each other, but they influenced me.
Right. Yeah, this is why I like to do this, because not everybody went on to kept playing, and went on, and that's what they did, professionally. Right. Not everybody did it, but there's a big, for those same people that did, to find out where they came from, and how it started.
Way back in the day, like with the creative funk.
Creative funk.
With Gary. I mean, I never did actually get to see him play live, but I heard him.
Yeah.
I heard him because, that the music that they did and so on and so forth and actually got produced. But they had, those guys had such an influence on us growing up, trying to become musicians.
Right.
It was unbelievable. I mean, all those guys. And I, just got to give props to them. All those guys that, although they're older than us now, they influenced us in such a way. I mean, I can't give nothing but thanks to them.
Yeah, man. Palmer Brothers.
Yeah.
The Pun Brothers. Even though y'all wouldn't let us in to the backyard to watch y'all, it's okay. We got to stay outside. We stood outside on the sidewalk.
We heard you anyway. We were always
with no
outside,
little kids in, but that's okay.
Go to Melvin's house.
Right.
And it was
all good, man. Like you said, I wouldn't trade in that experience.
I wouldn't trade that experience for nothing in the world,
man. And so that's why, I do this. I want to talk to the cats that I didn't really know that well.
Right.
And just, for people to understand like the history of Jamaica Queens, man, musically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that was just then, because later it exploded in hip hop.
Yeah. But we were rich. We're rich in history. And
jazz. I didn't know so many jazz cats lived around the way.
Exactly.
But all right, bro, we're going to end it here, man. Again, man, thanks for everything, the information I didn't know. Like I said, man, you was the first bass player I ever played with, and you're the first bass player to ever teach me anything. I believe the first song you taught me was Evil by Earth, Wind & Fire.
Yo, man.
I learned that, and then you showed me Skin Tight.
Yep. Well, Kev, all I can say is realistically, I mean, it's been a pleasure knowing all those guys. They influenced me heavily, but you will always be my drummer.
Hey, bro, I appreciate that, man. And like I said, you my oldest friend, and so it was a pleasure for you to be the first bass player I played with. So on that note, I'm going to get out of here. Thank everybody for listening to another episode of Musician Rewind. We're going to catch y'all on the next one. All right, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother.
Right now.
All right.